A teen sent a letter to a random address across the world which led to a lifelong friendship. I'm going to read into this wonderful story from the Positive Outlook, you guys. Let's go. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. This is Reganelite here, and a wonderful story here from Positive Outlook with the headline of a teen that sent a letter to a random address across the world, which led to a lifelong friendship. And what I really love about this story is that it didn't involve social media, it didn't involve the internet. This was blossomed by the continuation of sending letters back and forth between one another. That's what's so awesome about this story that I loved. And I think eventually, in the end of this story, they got to meet each other, which is quite incredible. It's extraordinary, and certain things had to happen for this to be possible as well. It's the whole like sending a letter in a bottle, and you never know who could pick it up, and then that person sends a letter back if you happen to leave your address or whatever on it, and it's amazing. It's amazing what when you take away the technology, and you just see how bonds between two complete random people from two different opposite ends of the world end up meeting for each other. It's a wonderful, wonderful thing. So two teens from opposite sides became pen pals after one sent a letter out of the blue. That single letter sparked a friendship that would last a lifetime. Leonor Drago, if I mispronounce the names, I apologise, grew up in a small village in Portugal's Alentejo region during the 1970s, often looked up at airplanes flying high above. To her, those places symbolised a world beyond her tiny community, a world she longed to see. She dreamed of visiting far places like the United States and France, but those dreams felt like they needed to be within reach. For her family, international travel was an unaffordable luxury. This is an example of someone who born into a world where they aren't able to have the money, the lifestyle that others have. We should never take what we have for granted. For me, the United States was something unreachable, she said, reflecting on the financial and practical barriers that made such a journey seem impossible. In 1975, a simple letter changed Leonor Drago's life forever. It came from Michelle Anderson, a 12-year-old girl from a small Connecticut town, and it marked the start of a decades-long friendship. What began as pen pals exchanging quickly grew into a deep bond, strengthening through letters filled with stories of their lives. Over the years, the pen pals have stayed connected, sharing milestones like marriages and parenthood, and navigating new ways to communicate in the digital age. Okay, so they eventually did obviously go on to the digital age, but but how it started obviously is still powerful in itself. Yet their connection remains as heartfelt as ever. It's been a really good bond, Michelle said during her recent Zoom call with CNN Travel, sitting alongside Leonor. It's been fun. I couldn't imagine her not being a part of my life and her family too, she added. A change meeting and cultural exchange, and this is one of the letters that they are sending there. It's lovely, but much better handwriting than me. Don't expect good handwriting from me. It's very nice handwriting. Michelle's curiosity about other cultures sparked the friendship, with encouragement from her mother. She wrote letters introducing herself. She sent them to 3 random chosen places after spinning a globe. One of them landed in Portugal and the rest was history. Michelle's mother encouraged her to find a pen pal to learn about life in another country. Following her advice, 12-year-old Michelle wrote letters introducing herself as a girl from Washington Depot, Connecticut, a small town with about 3,000 residents. To choose where to send them, she spun a globe and picked 3 destinations at random. One of Michelle's letters made its way to a small Portuguese town near Mola. It was initially given to a girl who wasn't interested in being pen pals with her. However, that girl attended the same school as Leonor, who eagerly stepped in and seized the chance to respond. That small decision sparked an extraordinary friendship. Leonor wrote back to Michelle, and the two quickly discovered they had much in common, including a shared love of poetry and heartfelt sentimental things. Michelle often looks back fondly at their early letters, remembering how Leonor asked for help for improving her English. She regrets not keeping those letters, imagining how fun it would be to read them now. Much of their correspondence centers on pop culture as teenagers. They bonded over their favorite books, movies, TV shows, finding common ground in the stories and entertainment that they both enjoyed. Despite living thousands of miles apart, Leonor and Michelle were fantasized by each other's lives. And Michelle, who had never been on vacation, was particularly amazed when Leonor described her trips to the Algarve. And I've been to the Algarve not too a few years ago. It's absolutely beautiful. I do recommend if you can afford to go. It is a wonderful place. I'm like, wow, she gets to go on vacation. How lucky is she? She said. Before cell phones, with expensive mailing costs, Leonor and Michelle found creative ways to stay connected. They exchanged mementos, pictures, and popular stickers from the US, in which Michelle remembers sending to Leonor. Through Leonor, once through visiting the US was out of reach, her friendship with Michelle made the dream even more attainable. Through their letters, Leonor learned more about American culture and felt that their bond opened the new doors for her. After years of correspondence, the pen pals wanted to meet in person, and they started planning for Michelle to visit Portugal. Michelle's journey to visit Leonor was challenging. She spent 3 years babysitting to save for the airfare, initially earning just 50 cents an hour. When local parents learned of her goal, they increased her pay to $1, turning it into an effort into a community project. After saving enough money, Michelle bought her ticket on August the 7th, 1980. Her parents drove her to JFK Airport for the first ever flight. At 17, between her junior and senior of high school, she was about to embark on an unforgettable 3-week adventure. When Michelle and Leonor finally met at the airport, they recognized each other by carrying pictures of one another. Michelle also brought gifts, including a Smurf toy and Billy Joel's Glass House album. Leonor's brother helped by spotting Michelle first and tapping her on the shoulder with the picture. Michelle remembers thinking, we found each other, now what? During the following weeks, Michelle immersed herself in Leonor's life in Portugal. They went camping in the Algarve, took a boat trip to Spain, and explored the town of Moralda. Michelle should experience not only the special moments, but also the everyday routines of Leonor's life. When Michelle visited Portugal, she was struck by the abundance of olive trees. However, she was still shocked when she was served fresh tuna with its head and eyes still intact, a far cry from the canned version that she was used to. Leonor was excited to have her American friend in town, and Michelle quickly became a local celebrity. One cultural difference puzzled Leonor, though. Michelle took a bath right after dinner, which was considered unhealthy in Portugal. Over time, Michelle adopted the local custom of waiting a couple of hours after eating before bathing. After 2 weeks, Michelle returned to the US, and although they wouldn't meet again in person for decades, their friendship stayed strong. They continued to exchange letters through their lives despite the challenges of time, college, career, marriage, and parenthood. Leonor notes that although it became harder without email, they continued writing. Their pen pals turned best friends and kept in touch over the years, sharing essential life events through letters and later emails, which made communication much easier. Despite the desire to meet again, financial and personal challenges delayed their plans. Leonor, a teacher struggling with low salaries in Portugal, which made it hard for her to afford a trip to the US. Although she hoped to bring her children to New York, they could only visit Paris and London. With their children's education a priority, Leonor and her husband postponed their US trip, but remained hopeful. And in 2022, after years of waiting, Leonor and her husband Felipe could finally visit Michelle and her family in Rhode Island. The trip delayed by the COVID-19 pandemic was a dream come true for Leonor. When Leonor arrived in the US, the excitement of reunion with her longtime friend Michelle surpassed everything else. Although they had stayed in touch through video calls and emails, meeting in person in Newark Airport after 42 years apart was a relief. Leonor had a list of sites she was eager to see, and the two friends spent 5 days exploring New York City together. Michelle's husband Rich was initially concerned about how they would get along as travel companions. However, Michelle felt confident their long-standing friendship would make the trip smooth. During their time in New York, they visited iconic landmarks like the Statue of Liberty, the Brooklyn Bridge, Central Park, and the Metropolitan Museum of Art. Yet Leonor was particularly drawn to M&J trimming, a unique needle-stone store filled with ribbons and buttons. Having always dreamed of living in the US, Leonor was thrilled to experience American life firsthand. However, the most memorable part of the trip was the time spent at Michelle's house. From shopping at large supermarkets to trying various ice creams, flavors, and Oriental variants, everything felt like a grand experience. In their 60s, Leonor and Michelle remained as close as ever, following their 2022 reunion. While they can no longer exchange letters, they stay in touch through WhatsApp and email, sharing every day from the photos of daily life to their dinner menus. Michelle, a group exercise instructor, highlights how strong connections have surpassed them both. and wish they lived closer to enjoy more time together. I wish we'd lived closer because I could see us going for a walk around the block and having coffee a couple of times a week, she said. Leonor sees her enduring friendship a reminder of the importance of stepping outside of one's comfort zone. She believes embracing different cultures enriches life, a perspective she shares with Michelle. The pen pals who have 2 children were thrilled to have their daughters met in Barcelona, where Leonor's daughters live. What a wonderful read. I love that story. That's a wonderful story, guys. Stories like these really do remind the humanity in people. You know, 2 people who had no idea about each other just happened to come across along each other with these letters, and a friendship just spoused out from there. And it's been a friendship for a very, very long time. And for the power of the internet, now they can keep in touch with her on a regular basis without having to write letters. But still, even back then, to have written letters back and forth, it reminds me of when I was younger, and my dad always encouraged in me to write letters to my nan who lived in Ireland, because she always liked writing letters. I couldn't read her writing, but I struggled to understand the importance of those letters. I wrote them because my dad told me to, not because I wanted to at the time. But in hindsight, I regret not writing more letters. But it still doesn't mean to say that I didn't get to travel over there and get to spend time with her and whatnot. But it does it's not the same. I know it's not the same as this, but it does remind me of that, of it. You know, letters don't have as much power. Don't have not as the norms as today, but there are still parts of the world where I still think it matters, and without a doubt, it mattered to these 2. That's for sure. What did you guys think? What do you guys make of this wonderful story about these 2 who end up having this amazing friendship and blossomed from 2 people from all the way from America, from Portugal? Let me know your thoughts and more down in the comments below. If you really enjoyed this heartwarming story, please hit that like button, share this across social media, subscribe for further content. Check out all the other links down below. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope to catch you all very, very soon.